Well, thanks for staying with us here on Market Day Report. I do appreciate it. I'm Suzanne Alexander. Well, from estate planning to ag labor contracts, there's a number of tax and legal elements involved in farming today. And with all of the moving parts, it is easy to overlook some key aspects that could potentially benefit your operation. And that's why we have Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law joining us once again for an update on this, and a pleasure. There is a lot to take a look at here. How it affects a producer's bottom line. Let's start with, say, the miscellaneous tax and estate issues. What do producers need to know here? And we're going to kind of break this down by subject.
Well, I think one of the big issues, particularly now that we have a $15 million federal estate and gift tax exemption, is complacency. Some people mistake they start thinking that I don't have to do any estate planning because the exemption's so high. Well, for most people, tax is not the issue. The issue is properly moving that property from one generation to the next and properly managing income tax basis. You don't want to be, most people don't want to be gifting property during life, because if you gift the property, then the donee is going to take your basis, which might be pretty low. You want to own that until you die, get a step-up basis. So don't mismanage that. And then there are other documents that need to go along with an estate plan: financial power, healthcare power, basic things like that can be overlooked if we become complacent, thinking that I don't need to do anything because the exemption is so high.
Do the work. And I think some people, maybe sometimes they're just thinking that they need to have somebody like you, somebody that they're referring to kind of overlook everything for them. I think that's one of the most important things.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Don't let an estate plan get stale. I had one on my desk. A couple came in to see me at the law school in August and brought in a package, and I pulled the package out, and the cover letter from the attorney was dated August 18, 1974.
Because I thought you were going to say crumbled in your hands,
and
pretty much.
They asked, do you think we need to do anything? And I just kind of put it back in the envelope and said, yes, you do.
Yeah.
Don't let them get stale like that.
Another big issue, ag labor. A lot of hidden regulatory issues here. There's a lot of risk here that people may not be aware of.
Yeah, for example, if you're in the Great Plains, we have custom cutting crews that go from state to state. I've had students in the past that when the semester's over in May, they head to Texas and they're on a custom cutting crew and they're cutting wheat all the way until August, and they come back to school, and they've done that all summer long. Well, if I'm an employer of that crew, and there are some farms and ranches that employ these crews, as you go from state to state, the state rules are different. You might roll into Colorado, and they have very strict overtime rules that would apply to custom cutters in that situation. Don't have that in Kansas or Nebraska, and that's often overlooked. The differences if they're traveling from state to state, you got to be aware of those state rules.
That's interesting. I think a lot of people would be shocked by some of these violations on that. Water and property rights. If you don't use it, you lose it. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, in many of the states, particularly west of the Mississippi River, it's a use it or lose it rule. You could, you have to have a permit, and if you don't use it for, in Kansas, 5 years, Colorado, 10 years, for example, you could lose your water right. Now, there are some exceptions. Every state is different. For example, if it's rained sufficiently, or I've got better technology for my irrigation, I don't have to withdraw as much water as I'm permitted to. You don't want the state coming in and reducing your water allocation. So there are good reasons that you might be able to get the state to back off, but every state rule is different on that.
If you lose it, is it gone forever?
It depends. There may be procedures in a certain state that you could get it back, but you don't want to lose it to begin with, so you need to be aware of what those rules are.
Absolutely. Sales and use tax on dual-use equipment. Flag some of the items here. What are we talking? I mean, these are the everyday things.
Yeah, you buy an ATV and you're going to haul equipment to go out and fix fence, or I'm going to go check my CRP ground to spray weeds, something like that. Some states will say that you can't get a sales tax exemption on so-called farm equipment, or farm equipment that's used on the farm, unless it's used in the primary production of agricultural commodities. Well, spraying CRP ground, fixing fence, that's indirectly related to production. Some states are picky at that, and you better keep a logbook of your percentage of time used in direct production and your percentage of time used for other purposes, particularly recreational. If you've got grandkids, those grandkids like to ride on those ATVs, and that's not going to count for the state sales tax exemption purposes.
So you literally have to write, I was using it on this day from this hour to this hour.
That will definitely help you if the State Department of Revenue comes in and audits you.
That is crazy to me. All right, fencing and boundary liability. Top case, or top cause, that is, of litigation here. What are we looking at?
Well, I'd say one of the big overlooked issues here is maybe you and I own a tract next to each other, and we've got a boundary line, but it's not convenient to put the fence there. And then there might be rocks, there might be a stream coming through, there might be timber, and so we just kind of put the fence, or I put the fence where it's convenient. Well, that may end up being the actual boundary, and so one of us may gain or lose property over a period of time if we don't have an agreement that down in writing, recorded on the land records that said, hey, this is just a fence of convenience. It's not intended to be a boundary. And so you don't want to lose land because of that.
So where can people go? They want this information. They want to have it in front of them so they can read it because there's a lot of information.
Well, of course, on the blog that I do for RFD-TV, some of it's there, some of it's on my Substack.
All right, always great information. Yeah. One of the best. We'd love having your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law.